There it is again, that violin. I just can't get over that violin and that witch laughing. Is that actual footage of you, Courtney? Where did we get that witch laugh?
It's not me because
Okay.
I really need to work on my cackle.
Oh,
I don't have a good cackle.
you don't have a cackle, huh?
Yeah, but I think the older I get, the more I'm getting to it, right?
Okay. Is that what it is? But you're like 700 and something years old, so you got to get even older than that. Okay. Here we are. It's the Witch Movie Project. This is a big episode today because two of these movies, I love both of these movies. I don't think you'd seen either one of them.
Yeah, a lot of nakedness in both, so you got a lot of good stuff going on there.
Yeah, usually we like to one of us usually likes to decorate ourselves as we do a little cosplay. This one not so much. We couldn't cosplay.
Yeah,
I could have done that. We could have done the eyelids from Samantha's character in Love Witch, because that's one of the movies. We could have done that.
I got my wingtips on today. You just can't really tell. But
That's true. That's
they
true.
go right into my wrinkles.
But this is the Love Witch and the Autopsy of Jane Doe. So let's go ahead and get to today's episode. Let's go check out these two movies, The Love Witch and The Autopsy of Jane Doe.
I am so excited about these two movies, Courtney.
I know.
These,
Your pick.
really, though, I have only seen these for the first time in the last maybe year or so. And guess what? These both came out in 2016 within months of each other.
Yeah.
They couldn't be more similar, but so far apart. Once again, it's a common theme here, what we're doing. But to me, you've got one witch who is trying way too hard to get the result, and you got one witch who lays there.
Doesn't you know?
Like,
Yeah, and we can talk about what real witchcraft might look like, and it's probably a little bit more like the Jane Doe, I have to say.
So our second movie is The Autopsy of Jane Doe. The first movie is The Love Witch with Samantha Robinson. Like, holy cow.
Wow.
Right? First up, what about the art direction? I ran across this movie late at night one time, maybe a year ago, and I was like, man, is this from the 70s? Like, this is awesome. But how did it look so good? And then I finally looked in and found out that, oh, this is the art style. This was the direction. They used the technicolor and made the colors pop. Her makeup, I mean, like, it pops. I know
Absolutely.
you about that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I had to look it up because Emma Willis, I have my notes here. You're going to hear me like shuffling pages. Emma Willis is the makeup. And I mean, you have to give props because it's on point. I tried to do my little cat eye eyeliner today, and I was telling Blane, I had to do this side like 4 times. I still couldn't get it right. It's really hard to do a cat eye.
This movie though is a visual feast. It looks
Yeah.
like the 60s, 70s, somewhere in that time frame. That's for me, so I'm not really sure. But it's the story. It follows.
Yeah.
Right? She's a modern day witch, I guess. Is that what you would say? And she's trying to use her powers to find love. Like, is that the
Yeah. But this is a really good example of like we talked about last week, like the intentions of the witch herself, if she's in a good mindset or if she's in a good place, like what those spells will create. And I don't think it's any surprise that Elaine, our main character, the Love Witch, she's in sort of a coming from a crisis mode. She was in a mental health facility. She talks about this in the opening sequence. She's driving. She's like, everybody's been abused and much worse than I have. And, they'll be okay. And she's talking about trying to come out of this mental health crisis she's been in, this breakdown that she's had. But she's in an energy of desperation, trying to figure out, what did I do wrong in my last relationship? Why didn't it work? Why didn't he love me? So it's no surprise that the spells throughout the movie are seeing like how this is playing out. She's coming at it with that energy, right?
Yeah, and let's just say that she's just a badass, because as she's driving in that opening sequence, she's chain smoking what I found to be after pausing it and zooming in, man, those are like Newport menthols. She is hardcore smoking, but making it look so sexy. Like it's that.
No, it's the 60s. You can be at, you can drive and smoke, and they're smoking throughout the movie and all that. Yeah.
And it's just, it adds to it, but it gives you that, I don't know, that kind of grunge feel, but yet she makes it look so good. They all kind of do. I mean, everybody in this movie, like really, these movies also, both of these movies, lots of naked.
Yep.
Lots of nakedness.
Yeah.
One movie, you got the witch who lays naked the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Not in a sexual way. But in the other Love Witch, she is the seductress. She is
very much.
So once again, you get the comparison of two naked witches with way different outcomes of what their scantily cladness would be.
Right. Well, there's a lot of nakedness in the Love Witch.
Yeah. With the
anyway, we get into like when the rituals are taking place and things like that. I mean, it's a very common image you think of when you think of witchcraft, or like witches in the woods. They're going to be naked. They're going to be dancing around a fire. They're going to be dancing with the devil. I mean, that's sort of the imagery you think of with witchcraft. What's interesting though, it's really on point for a 60s, 70s movie because all the women are attractive. Almost, I mean, all the ones I saw, it's like thin, beautiful, not a blemish in sight. And the men, not traditionally attractive. I mean, not what you would normally think of as attractive. So you're kind of like, you have a feast of the eyes for those attracted to women, but those attracted to men, we don't quite get the feast for the eyes that we deserve.
Because even in the men who are naked in the background, like it's not much to look at. And then we're not out here judging, but
I say traditionally attractive because I don't believe in a one size fits all.
Yeah, I totally see that. And I mean, that's kind of, honestly, that's a big theme in the movie here is she just kind of looking for love. It doesn't matter. She, it's not, she doesn't really have a type, I don't guess, or does she?
Well, it seems like she's definitely open to anything.
Yeah.
I mean, someone gives her a little bit of attention. She's like, all right, I'm going with this. And we'll see how far I can get here. Or I'll see where this pans out. But when talking about the technicolor, the cinematography of like making it look like it was made in the 1960s, I realized I have quite a bias against movies that are older. And I'm realizing that because when you brought this movie up when we were first making our list, I looked it up and I was like, oh, this movie looks old.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to watch this. Is it going to be like super boring? Am I going to sit here and watch this whole movie? And then I looked at the year 2016. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
What?
Yep.
Looks like it was absolutely plucked right out of, in fact, the choice of actors. They were just obscure enough. I didn't know any of them from other things. So I was like, oh, they totally could have been from the 60s.
Not only that, you didn't know them much, but they all were stars in the movie. Like Samantha Robinson shines. Jeffrey Price shines. Jennifer Ingram shine. Like they all
incredible.
Everybody in this movie, like you said, I love that it fits it because if they would have picked I don't want to say these people aren't A-listers, but if they would have picked a huge, if you'd have who? Angelina Jolie and
Tom Hanks.
Exactly. You already know.
Sergeant Griff.
Yeah. Can you picture that? Let's look at AI version of that. Yeah.
No, but the guy, I don't know if I say his name right, Gian Keys that plays
Griff. Yeah.
Griff. Amazing. His facial expressions fit the 1960 style of acting. I mean, it makes you feel like you are watching a movie from that time period. Like right out of the.
I wanted you to get into the tarot cards and the artwork because there's a lot of stuff that an outsider to this kind of lore, might have missed. And I picked up on it because there's lots of tarot cards. There's she mixed in herbs. There's witch stuff. There's a lot of witch stuff going on. I don't know.
Yes.
So tell me about it. I mean, she puts some sort of spell on the first guy, Wayne. Was it Wayne? And then she takes a used tampon, and I'm not saying that in a derogatory way, literally a used tampon, and puts it into a bottle of some sort with some other witch stuff. Like, what is all this? Is this typical stuff? Like, what is this?
Okay, we can get into all of that. I want to start from this opening sequence and from her going into the house. She even mentions she meets Trish.
Yeah.
Trish is like, "Oh, your friend Barbara couldn't meet you. I'm here to let you into the apartment." Trish is British.
What a powerhouse. What a powerhouse Trish was.
Right? Oh, she's fantastic.
Yeah.
And she talks about the artwork. So she says she decorated the apartment, and it's like based on the Thoth tarot, which the director intentionally decorated the artwork, all of that, the colors coming from the Thoth tarot. And what's interesting about that is that there's the Thoth tarot and there's a Rider-Waite-Smith that are considered to be kind of the original artwork for tarot.
Oh.
They're a little bit different, but they come from the same place. So they are the same time period. And I wrote it down. They are both from... Oh, shoot. Now I have to find it in my notes.
Yeah.
There's a certain society. I have so many notes here that it's like everything gets lost in here.
Let me ask you that, though, on the tarot cards and all. Go ahead.
So Rider-Waite-Smith, they are a group of people who wrote like what we consider to be kind of the original artwork that was published. It was first multi-published. But they're both from the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, a secret society that created both the Thoth tarot and the Rider-Waite-Smith. And what's interesting is when you see Elaine later doing a tarot reading, when Wayne is going through his little tough time there, and she's sitting there and she does a tarot reading, I had to stop and pause on that because I'm like, actually, that's the Rider-Waite-Smith deck.
Ah.
So they mentioned Thoth as the inspiration for the artwork in the apartment. You have a lot of those like bright colors, like a lot of like primary colors, blue, red, yellow, right? It's very bright, but just very interesting. And we'll get into like, as we go through the movie, some meanings of those tarot cards that she pulls out when she does her reading.
Yeah, because I got a lot of questions about that. Let's go back to Trish.
Yeah.
Laura Waddle is the one that played her, and I got to nerd out here for a minute because she's a big voice actor in video games. So if you play a bunch of games out there, I think World of Warcraft, maybe even a Tomb Raider game or two, you might hear some similarities there in her character, but that's just me nerding out. Love my video games. Anytime I can tie witches into video games, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Whole other idea. Wait a minute, we'll get there.
We might be onto something here. We need to sell this to a game company and be like, hey, how can we create something from this?
Yes, but
I would buy it.
The tarot art? Do you want to get into the tarot art now? Because I'm fascinated with it.
Well, let's see. I'm trying to think of where this begins. So Trish and her go to the tea room. There's this really significant that the director, Anna Biller, she says that when you see warm colors that are in the shot, representing the masculine side, so the sun energy, and then you have cooler colors in other scenes representing the feminine energy or the moon. So she had kind of a moon and sun play with colors in the different scenes there. So
that matches up with that matches definitely with what's going on in the movie, because there's the themes of love, obsession, and the power dynamics between men and women. And see Elaine as she's a symbol of women empowerment in this, but it's also everything that men fear. It's everything. It's really, she's all of those things, but still able to get what she wants. And I think that's a powerful message to get across there.
Yeah. And it's interesting because the conversation between Elaine and Trish at the tea room when they first meet, it's really setting you up for the sort of play in the movie of what are the actual feminist undertones here? What is actually the message? Because you have Trish who's like listening to this, like, you just have to be his fantasy and you have to give him whatever he wants. And men are simple and they're like children. They have their needs and blah, blah, blah. And Trish is like, what about my needs?
Yep.
And I'm like, who's the feminist here? And who actually has power, right? Because is it Trish who believes that, like, well, women should be able to have their careers. I should be able to go to a furniture convention.
Yeah.
My husband not go crazy while I'm gone. Like, he should be able to handle himself. He should love me for me. She's like, oh, I guess my husband just loves me for me. And she believes that at that moment in the movie. Whereas Elaine is like, by the end of the movie, giving a speech about how, I become their fantasy and then their mind control. But she's really living her life to be whatever men want her to be.
Yep.
Right? So it begs this question of like, is men objectifying you actual power, or is that playing into still the idea that we exist for men? Something to think about for you feminists out there.
I mean, but you're right. There is a balance. There's a fine line of balance between those two things. It's like you could tip one way or the other very easily. And it's there. I love that you picked up.
Yeah. And I mean, we're skipping around a little bit, but at the end, when she says, witchcraft gave me power, she's not wrong there. Obviously, you see throughout the movie these hints or these clues that Elaine was abused as a child by her father. She was treated poorly, badly, and disrespected by her husband. And she is clearly in a mental state of like believing her worth depends on how the men in her life see her. So she says, witchcraft saved my life. Witchcraft is my power. And that is a really good point, because a lot of women turn to witchcraft because they feel powerless in their life, that they're they're part of the oppressed society or gender. So it's their way of being like, well, if I can't have power in society, I'm at least going to have power in this way, right?
I love that. Now, So with that being said,
that little rant is over.
You can rant all you want, but I love the take. I mean, that's what we're trying to do here is break these down and find out and look at symbols and compare.
Yeah. And the themes, like what is the director really trying to show here? With a female director, you've got these undertones of like the feminist point of view, right? And may I just say, so we're going through the movie and we have Wendy, who is the shop owner at the little, played by Jennifer Couch, at the little shop Apothecary, where Elaine is going to sell her witch bottles and stuff. We briefly see her twice in the movie. She has a very, pretty small moment, but I had to point it out because she's incredible too. Her acting, she's incredibly bland.
Yeah.
Right? And it like transports me back in time. It makes me think I'm watching a movie from a whole generation ago, right?
Like it's there. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because she goes up to talk to her and Wendy's just at the counter like, can I help you?
Yep.
I mean, it's just deadpan.
It's perfect.
I had to give a shout out. I loved it.
I love that out. It is perfect. And the tarot cards artwork.
Yes.
I'm ready to get to that because I got a lot of questions about it. I've seen different artwork, but the same names on all these cards. What were these cards that she had in this movie? And are they the same as we see? I know you talked about it a minute ago with the two different kinds, but what were these that she had?
Yeah. So she was doing a little reading, 3-card spread. You see her doing that on the table at Wayne's cabin.
Yeah.
While Wayne's having a bit of a emotional breakdown. she does this spread, and I'm looking at it closer, and I'm like, that's not thought, that's Rider-Waite-Smith, at least from my knowledge. Now, somebody else might know tarot way more than me. I'm not an expert, but if somebody knows differently, you can definitely shout it out to me. I'm like, oh, that's the Rider-Waite-Smith artwork that I know of. And so I pulled out my Rachel True deck, and I found the same cards in the spread. So I'm thinking to myself, if I was doing this tarot reading, what would I think about these cards? And she pulls up the 5 of Cups.
Okay.
I'm going to try to show it on camera, because if you are watching on YouTube, then you can see it. This is her interpretation of 5 of Cups. It looks very different than the movie or the Rider-Waite-Smith, but the meaning, different tarot artists and tarot writers can do kind of their own interpretation of the tarot, and that's totally allowed. So while everything has a symbol and a meaning, it's also up for intuition and interpretation based on the reader, based on the artwork of the deck. All of that can be an influence. But you'll see in this card how it doesn't necessarily look like a very positive card.
Yeah.
You have like a woman in a bathtub, and there's portraits all around her with eyes, and the cups are around her spilling out water. And she's kind of in a like crying state. And I don't like to say that there's tarot cards that are bad or negative, but there are tarot cards that are going to be pretty blunt and are going to be like, yeah, the joke is oracle cards are like, everything is rainbows, everything is wonderful. And tarot is like, you're in trouble, girl.
Oh,
So it'll give you the truth is the basic.
kind of like, so you're saying it'll turn out like that tarot movie that just came out.
Ugh. Love it.
All right. Hey, watch out for the bonus episode where me and Courtney Pearl break down tarot. That's gonna be
We have to talk about that one, because that came out after we made our list, but it was pretty interesting, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, the idea here is like the 5 of Cups means emotional turmoil. It's a point of struggle. It's not like everything's easy breezy, everything's going to turn out your way. She's got the tarot or the Tower card in the middle. The Tower is notorious for being like, everything's about to blow up in your face.
Huh.
Get ready. You're going to have to leap from a burning building. That's kind of the energy of the Tower. And then, of course, this shows up a few times in the movie, the 3 of Swords, with the heart being stabbed to 3 swords. I mean, I don't think you have to be a tarot reader to like kind of derive some meaning from that. It's a heart. It's been stabbed 3 times. So that's the reading she gets with Wayne.
Now, the whole thing, like you just mentioned the heart with the swords, and I'm thinking about some of the imagery we see.
Mm-hmm.
Background, we already talked about the vibrant colors, but there's a lot of symbolism in the rituals that they're performing. And on top of that, the color schemes and the way it's all arranged almost feels like you're in a dream. It feels like you're asleep.
Yeah.
It's very dreamlike, which fits into the theme of love and passion. You're euphoric. Like the movie feels euphoric. Not as happy as our other movie, but
No.
that one, yeah.
Completely different vibe, but still in the horror. When I looked it up, it was considered, in the article that I was reading, it was considered a horror comedy.
Yeah.
Which you can definitely see that aspect of it, because there's some moments that are just kind of like, what?
Be over the top.
What is happening right now?
Like there's a sequence in there where they're at like a medieval festival type thing, and there's dance. I'm like, man, this is wild,
Lots of tarot symbols in that medieval scene too. You've got the big sun in the background where they're playing out the, which by the way, they call it a midsummer festival. But at the same time, they have the Holly King battling with winter. It reads a little bit more like or as the young kids would say, it's giving spring vibes.
Yeah.
But he calls it midsummer. So I don't know. But there's a lot of tarot symbols. The Fool, the jester that's running around with this little jester scepter, and he's kind of being silly. Those are all symbols from the major arcana of the tarot deck. So
Great to know. See, I thought maybe I picked up on that, but it was there. It's very evident. My final thoughts on Love Witch is, I think it's a classic.
mhm.
And I mean that in two different ways. It looks like a classic, but I think it's also stands stands the test of time, or whatever you want to call it. And I think it just has its own place in witch horror. It has its own place in folk horror genre. It's a work of art. I really did enjoy it.
Yeah.
I want to shout out that Occult Laboratories, that's the people who basically produced this film. And I love that company because they did a movie that I really, really love called Coherence. And this one's not a witch movie, Courtney, so paper your...
It can't all be great.
Exactly, yeah. But this movie, I've seen this movie over 100 times. And and I'm just pointing that out because the artistic direction in this and what they do in Coherence, it's almost like, to me, this company, Oscilloscope Laboratories, they are almost like an A24. It's like, you're going to get an experience. Coherence,
Yeah.
like an experience. Coherence is shot like a stage play. The actors knew bullet points, but they didn't get given a script. So I love when people are thinking outside the box. This Love Witch movie is outside the box with the whole thing is, it's like you said, you were like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to watch an old movie. No, it's only 5 years old, 6 years,
Yeah. It was challenging my bias, and I'm happy to be challenged in that. There's plenty of movies that were made 30 years ago, 50 years ago. They're fantastic movies as well. So I need to get over that. That's my issue, not a problem for the movie.
We've got some of those coming up here later on in this project we're doing. But what are your final thoughts on The Love Witch?
Okay, final thoughts. This is a feast for the eyes, but it's also a feast for the witch, because if a witch watches and you're watching for all of this symbolism and you're looking for things like what's in the witch bottle and what they do, which, by the way, using parts of your own body is that is a practice in witchcraft. Typically, I don't see people using urine and tampons in witchcraft. That's just not the way I've seen it done. I'm not saying that isn't something that people might do.
If you think about it, you're using the menstrual cycle to attract
blood. Yeah. I have used hair.
Okay.
So like in making an offering, when I am picking things from my garden, I don't want to just take from the plants. I usually leave like a strand of hair in the soil to nourish it with whatever offering that I can. Our nail clippings or things like that might nourish a garden and be offered back to the earth, just in a symbolic of reciprocity with the land, things like that. However, I just want to point out that the tampon thing, it bothers me because we just found out, research just showed how much chemicals and lead is in tampons. So that doesn't seem quite as natural as the menstrual blood would maybe do in the witchcraft. So I'm just gonna point that out.
Maybe that's why it didn't work out for her. Maybe
that's not why. Yeah. Not a fan. But my final thought is in the tarot. So you see Richard, the married man that she has an affair with. He does a little tarot spread as well. And in his spread, you see the devil card. And in the devil card, you have two people, usually man and woman, naked on the card with the devil. And they're chained up. And this card usually comes up when we're talking about addiction, or we're talking about vices, or things that keep you trapped and trained. And, when you're too much in your ego and that's not serving you. But it is in contrast, and a lot of tarot readers read them as opposites. It is the balancing card with the Lovers card.
Okay.
So they have the same kind of imagery on them. You have the two people chained up on the devil card, and you have the two lovers on the lover card. And I think that is very much the overall takeaway from this movie, is that to be careful with what you want and like what you're actually seeking for, because she kept seeking for real, true love. And what she got was a lot of lust, passion, insecurity. You know, it didn't work in her favor. It was more like the devil card showing up,
Yeah.
right?
I love it. I
So
think
there you go.
I will watch. Are you going to watch this movie again?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This will be like maybe a certain time of year favorite, maybe during Valentine's Day.
I mean, it's the Love Witch. I think that'd be a great one to, maybe we'll screen that for Valentine's Day.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Put some people under
Yes.
spell. Maybe we'll have a naked ritual or whatever they did in the movie. And we'll set up a,
Yeah. Yeah. My days of doing anything like that were long gone, if they ever happened at all. People ever catch me doing that.
speaking of naked, let's talk about this next movie. The Autopsy of Jane Doe.
I know.
I don't like to call stuff favorites and all that, but this
But you've been chomping at the bit since the beginning. I know that.
this
We
movie
can
is
tell.
up at the top for me. It's
I can see why.
where do you start with this movie? You've got the protagonist that never moves. She's laying on a table.
The main character, the witch of this movie,
Never moves.
never moves.
She. Or does she? Because I swear, like her face, her impression, like it looks like they change a little bit in the movie, but they
Yeah.
don't.
Well, Matt even said at one point we were watching it, he goes, "Did I just see her eye move?"
Now,
And we weren't sure. It wasn't quite.
the writer Ian Goldberg and Richard Nang, I saw an interview with them on Joe Bob. They Joe Bob Briggs and Darcy have done this movie, and Ian Goldberg, Joe Bob asked him, "Did her face move?" And he's like, "No, it's just the great acting of our main character, Jane Doe, which is played by
Owen Kelly.
Owen Catherine Kelly, and
Yes.
she shares the yoga."
I know. And it said, yeah, I read that they had looked for, and the reason she was cast is because she is a yogi, practices yoga, and was able to stay still. They did not want to use like a fake body. They thought, oh, people will be able to tell, and we don't want it to be fake. We want it to be a real body. And I mean, that's incredible. Mind-blowing.
She laid there.
For 8 to 10 hours a day during filming on a metal table.
in a room full of probably men,
Yeah.
like vulnerable, and still put on what I would call an Oscar. This is an Oscar-winning performance without having to do anything.
I know.
I say that because I know you got to do a lot to do that, but on the surface, you don't have to do anything except do it well. She did it so well that along with what we'll get into, Brian Cox, Emile Hirsch, the acting from them, you are immersed in this film. You are trapped. It's the old school mentality of, oh, the cabin in the woods, or how do we get everybody isolated to where you get out, to where you make the viewer feel that way. Sure, we've seen it a million times, but not like this.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead. You want to say something? I see you.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking about how you only see the outside of the house in a couple little parts. Right at the beginning, right at the end. The entire movie takes place like underground in this morgue and
In a morgue, in a family home. Now, how many people live in the morgue? Or it's a little weird, right?
I couldn't do it.
I actually got a good friend that I went to high school with, Stephanie. I love you, Stephanie. She lives above one in my hometown. She lives above a funeral home.
Wow.
Talked to her about it before. She said there's some weird stuff, but you just don't go looking.
Yeah.
In this movie, they didn't have a choice. Like the the doors are opening. There's bodies walking around. Like you're on edge.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
There's all of these little pieces. The radio, you got the radio playing different music at certain times that matches up. You've got Brian Cox playing the dad, the main,
Oh, he's fantastic.
and he keeps us cool. It's like, I love how they're cutting open the body, and he's like, "Oh, I've seen this 1,000 times." And he
Yeah, and it's generational. Like they this job, this career has been in the family for generations. So it's like passed on to father to son. Like we do autopsies.
right.
This is what we do.
The Tilden Morgue is what it is in Virginia or somewhere. But it's his life, and you can tell he's not really rattled by much. It's many times he says, "Oh, it's a corpse. Oh, it's this, it's that."
Yeah. Yeah. There's
Okay.
got to be some detachment.
Yeah.
In doing that job. Like I'm not thinking about this person, their life, or why, or how they die, or why they died, but how is the only question I need to ask. And yeah.
He gets tested though. Like as this movie progresses, we'll get to that part. But
So did you in doing some research for this movie, Emile Hirsch that plays Austin, the son, he actually went and worked with coroners for a while to learn how to do it. So he was like observing, spent time with bodies, spent time like watching them do autopsies. And Brian Cox was like, not me.
oh,
He's
Blane.
like, you're a better man than me. I can't do it. I cannot. It's too icky. It's too, he was too grossed out by it. So it's interesting.
I don't think there's parts in this movie that I have a hard time watching. It's like, ooh, it makes me cringe. And I'm like, first of all, it's a movie. Second of all, if it was real, it's an autopsy. Like you got the process of me seeing them doing the big incisions and what is it?
Yeah.
What is it?
Cracking the ribs open.
Oh man.
You hear the sound effects with the crunch, 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 all that.
The rib saw or whatever he calls it. Yeah. It's excruciating to watch. And then when we find out later on that not only is it excruciating to watch, but it's excruciating for the main character at the same time, even though she's dead. Spoiler, sorry. But she could feel all this happening.
Yeah.
Okay, according to them. And I don't want to jump too far ahead because there's a lot of things that are lining up that are out of ordinary. You go from, if you catch these little signs and these little tidbits, such as at the very beginning of the movie, beautiful weather.
Yes.
You hear it. You can hear it in the background where they're talking about there's beautiful weather coming, no signs of anything basically. And then guess what? That body shows up. All hell breaks loose.
Mm-hmm.
You can hear the storm. The weather reports on the radio are different.
Everything's like, this storm is worse. Which I kept thinking, oh, if the storm's so bad, then his girlfriend, Emma, was that her name? Yeah. I'm like, oh, she probably won't come back then. Because he sends her away, says, I'm sorry, another body's come in. I need to help my dad. Go without me. Come back. We'll go see a midnight show.
Okay.
Meet me here in a couple of hours. And the whole time I'm thinking, well, she's not going to come back. There's a huge storm.
Exactly. So when she does come back, tragedy strikes.
Yeah.
But we also find out that storm never happened.
Yeah.
Like to me, on your first watch, you don't notice them talking about the weather so much in the background.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's like a to-watch
Yeah.
movie for sure. Yeah.
Catch that on a rewatch, and you're like, oh my gosh, there's all these little signs that are like, not that we don't know already that shit ain't right. Like something weird is wrong. But the weather picks up. Then we find out you can't get it out of the elevator. The power's out. The storm door is trapped by the old oak tree. Like all these things. And
Yeah. They build that trapped feeling, that intensity really well. You're just like,
Isolation.
oh.
Isolation, you can't get in or out, basically, is what the thought is. And to me, it's The Thing, it's Alien, which is Stephen King, who doesn't like anything really. Stephen King will probably see our project here if he ever does and be like, that's trash. I'd probably agree. But Stephen King, I love this project. Stephen King did say that this movie, it was up there with the echelons of Alien. And that's a huge compliment. I'm an Alien fan. I mean, I got an Alien poster on my shoulder here. Alien is one of the greatest franchises in the history of horror movies. Alien's the peak for me.
Yeah.
Think about it. That movie should be the most terrifying movie you ever see. Space, trapped, nowhere to go. And you got the perfect organism on the other. And for him to compare these two movies together, I see it. She's the perfect organism in this situation. There's no way to stop her. It's
terrifying.
Super terrifying that you're isolated in this morgue, not a spaceship. Lots of similarities to the Alien movies.
Right.
And still found a way to do it in a new way. This movie.
Yeah, you get that feeling when they're in the elevator. I mean, they've done everything they can to run away, to try to like find some safety, right? Like you do. And you feel that sense with them because you're like, just get into the elevator or just get into, like, you just want to calm down for a second. You want to feel that like rest. They're in the elevator and Austin, the son, is like, why hasn't she killed us yet? She could easily just kill us right now. Like that's how powerful she is. There's no way out. Like that perfect organism.
It is. But you know what that does is build tension. This entire movie is just like an Alien movie. There is no breather. You're tense the entire time.
Yeah, I felt that.
You don't know what's going to happen, but you know something is. You know it's there. They did a great job of building an atmosphere, making a viewer, bringing a viewer in and making them immersed into that situation with Tommy and his son. You know, it was, to me, I felt like I was there. I feel like I'll watch it in a dark room and I'm there and I'm like, oh my God. Like,
yes, I felt that too. And I was like sitting with my notes, my husband sitting next to me on the couch. We're watching it together. And I told him, I even wrote it in my notes. I was like, I can't watch. And I told my husband, I'm like, you might have to just describe to me what's happening so that I can still get what I need, but not have to watch. Cause I was just like this on the couch, like, what's up?
And that's how I was, but I want to say that it's not like I'm terrified. Yeah, I'm sure I'm terrified, but it's not like I'm going to stop watching this thing. Like, I got to see how this.
Oh, no, I wanted to see it. I wanted to see everything. I was just like, I can't physically look at it while I'm trying to watch it. It was just that kind of like, the intensity was so much. I feel like I'm there. I'm in it right now. And they did that with the parts where lights go out.
Yeah.
And there's sort of the flashlight, so you're not seeing everything, or the part where they're in the smoke, walking through the hallway and you can't see anything, but there's like strobe lights kind of an effect going on.
See shadows over legs every once in a while, or somebody's legs, and you're like, they just
love it. So good.
Highly, highly intense. Like I said, this movie also is an experience. This is not just watching a movie. You are experiencing what they're going through. You go through an entire autopsy. Like, how often am I going to watch an autopsy? Never. But
but they're going through like the organs. Like, we're gonna.
And it's cool to see the board. It's cool to see all the stuff of how they do it.
Yeah.
And then they start doing the autopsy. So when they're cutting her open, that's when really the dad, Brian Cox, what was his name in the movie? It was
Tommy
and Austin. So when Tommy's in cutting up Jane Doe, and he's talking about, I've seen this and I've seen that, and then they open the mouth, and like, That's about the first moment you're like, uh-oh. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, before that, they're doing the color of the eyes too, and it pops the eyes open. And it's gray. You're like,
Gray.
oh, like,
Yeah. He's like, well, usually that's what they look like when they're dead for a while. But what's interesting, they know, even before they do that, they know how clean she is.
yeah.
And Matt said that too, because we were both watching a Wheeler in and we're like, wasn't she found in dirt?
Nope.
She's like clean and like on the outside, before they look at anything, she looks perfect.
And then they start cutting her open, and there is
Mhm.
nothing perfect on the inside of this.
Yeah.
It's-
So many things start adding up and you're like, oh my gosh, she's a mess.
Let's go through. Let's go through them. So they're cutting her open, and all at the same time, Tommy is basically saying, "Oh, I've seen this before," and he's going back and forth to books, and he's like, "Oh,"
Yeah.
but you start seeing that. Maybe he's fighting with himself and thinking there's something weird going on. You got
Yeah.
the tongue. Her tongue got cut out.
Tongue,
Lungs. Their lungs are burned up. The scar
scars,
on the inside.
cut.
No, they figure out her ankles are broken pretty quick. And he's
Yeah,
like,
ankles and wrists shattered, but no
Like-
outward bruising or damage, just shattered. He says at first fractured, and then the son's like, no, they're shattered.
and he moves that thing around, and you're like, oh my God, that looks.
I know.
You're like, oh, that's rough. And if that's not already weird enough, then they start cutting her open. And that's when we cut open the stomach, and he pulls out Jimson weed.
Yes.
Natura is what that is. It's the devil's trumpet. I know about this drug. I
Yes.
could read the old, there was a website where you could read about people's trips. I never wanted to do it, but I loved going and reading about people's Natura trips because of how off they were. So for her to have this in her system, it's a paralyzing agent. It
Yep.
also gives you hallucinogenic.
Which is why it was in The Love Witch given to Wayne. They
Exactly.
find out in the toxicology report. So there's a connection there.
Exactly. And then you've got even further, they cut her open, and you've got the shroud, the cloth with the sigils on it, and
Mhm.
Roman numerals, which we know what that goes to later. But they unwrap it, and there's a tooth in there. Like, it's her tooth.
Her too. Yeah.
Well, they-
Again, using body parts for witchcraft. This is just another example of like the way that the Love Witch uses her urine and her menstrual blood and things
Yeah.
like that. Animal parts, fur, teeth, bones. This is stuff that you see a lot of times and used in witchcraft. And so, yeah, it makes total sense to me that there'd be a bone or a tooth in there.
So why would they make her eat her own tooth? I guess it's torture.
Yep.
They tortured this woman.
Yes.
And we find out that later, but I don't want to get to the end yet. Leading up to that, you still got Tommy, who is not so sure about stuff. And then there's a breaking point right about halfway in the movie. And what is it? The lights go out.
Yeah. The storm is supposedly getting worse. So the radio is like,
What's the radio doing? You got some info on that radio, I think, don't you?
yeah, the radio keeps playing a song. And when it first comes on, they're like, it's weird. And they try to change the channel because it's like this old song. But I had to look it up because I was like, is this song from the movie or is it from before the movie? It's from 1954 McGuire Sisters. So Let the Sun Shine In. And the lyrics are all about like, don't let the devil get to you. You have to smile and be happy. And that's how you can keep the devil away. And it keeps coming back to this song like 3-4 times in the movie, different points, like very specific points. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. And then you hear certain things on the radio. It's like, there's the one thing that pops out. It's like, you're not getting out of here, or whatever he says. And the lights go out. And finally, Tommy says, let's get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
And when he says that, it's literally, to me, that's the moment in the movie where you're like, all right, if I'm not already scared, the fact that he just said, let's get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
In that way, after being cool, calm, and collected all the way up until now, I better be fucking terrified.
Right. Because he's the dad, right?
Yeah.
He's the dad. And he's been up until this point. And that's why it's very interesting. I made a note of this. In this part, when they start kind of panicking a little bit, they're like running out of there. The dynamic that they chose to use as father and son for this movie is very fascinating to me, because you get this idea of like, even though it's a grown son, grown man, the idea is that he's still going to look to his dad for like, he knows what's going on. He's going to protect me. If he keeps his cool, then I can keep my cool because I know it'll be okay. And you probably have this dynamic too, where the father is like, I got to protect my son. I got to, I got to keep it together for him. I got to be the strong one. There's this father-son thing that you can't ignore. Like, it's part of the whole tenseness of this moment, right?
The emotion between them. It's that they build between the two actors themselves, and it comes across on that screen even further when Tommy kind of goes back to, oh, I've seen this. He's still kind of like, oh, it's corpse. Oh, that's not possible. And that's when Austin says another line that I picked up on. He says, we are far past what's possible.
Yeah.
And at that point, another point in the movie, you're like, whoa, we ain't going back. Like, this is going where it's going. And even all the way up until now, we still don't know she's a witch.
Yeah. We don't know what's going on. Yeah. It's just the bodies are missing out of the drawers.
Yeah.
Dad's like, okay, let's get the fuck out of here. Like,
Yep.
I admit this is crazy. We have to just get it out.
Yep.
Let's just go. And then they're running through halls and yeah.
They get trapped in, I guess, an office.
Yes.
He pulls the curtain back. You see a glimpse of her. If you really pause it, you see a glimpse of somebody standing there.
There's like the shadow, right? Yeah.
And he's like, oh, and at the same time, as a viewer, you're like, whew, okay, we're good. And then it gets fucking snatched.
Yeah. I love parts like that.
And you see the gray eyeball close up, and you're like, this man, like,
yeah.
While watching this movie, once again, the isolation, you as a viewer are like, I want to get the fuck out of here. Like, you're like, where? I want to get out of here, but where do I go? Like, there is no safe spot. And like Austin said, everything that's possible is gone. Like, anything that was not possible is out the window. We have seen too much.
Yeah.
To know that something weird's going on.
They kind of flip roles here, because now the son is the one being like, you have to accept that this is
her
going haywire and we got to do something about it.
Keeps saying it's her.
Yeah.
Her. That's his, and finally they do get that. Like, they realize it's her. They find out what's going on, and what do they find, Courtney?
Well, I have to point out, this is really like old cinema, Alfred Hitchcock kind of way of doing horror movies, because it's even more intense or scary when you don't see what's attacking them, right? And I was told in a cinema class once, they were talking about Psycho, and they were talking about how you don't see her, you don't see Mrs. Bates, you don't see the killer, you see a shadow, and that's more terrifying to the audience than if you actually see it. And I think that was like a call to that, because when the dad gets pulled into the shadows and you're seeing him getting like banged around, and you see just that eye, you're not actually seeing her or what it is, but you're just like, yeah, it's something in the dark, right?
I guess really we never really know that it is her.
No,
you don't.
Is it one of the bodies? Is it all in their head?
Is it a spirit of her? Like what? Like what? Like, yeah, is it in their head? Like, what is going on in there? Like, it's so many layers. There's a lot of layers.
It's really cool. I love that kind of stuff in movies, that it plays with you a lot. And it's not just like handing it to you. It's not just like showing you, this is the killer, watch them stab them. I like it when there's a lot more mystery to it, because then my mind fills in the blanks, and that's probably worse than anything the movie could show me anyway.
Now, this movie was inspired by The Conjuring, and I don't know if you've seen it, but the director, Norwegian director, Andre Overdahl. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. If not, somebody out there from one of these Norwegian countries, please correct me. and get us in touch with Andre. I'd love to talk to him or
Yeah.
Ian Goldberg, the writer.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
But he took the inspiration from The Conjuring. Now, Andre also made the Troll Hunter movie. That Troll Hunter movie inspired me to go to Iceland. So I went to Iceland.
Okay. Yeah.
And
There you go.
Thank you for that, Andre. But he's put together some great experiences, and this is an experience.
For
The
sure.
film itself, even filming it would have been an experience. They filmed it in chronological order. Like,
Oh, yeah.
to me, you see that it's evident when you watch it back that it was in chronological order.
Yeah.
Everything is basically growing as the movie goes. The
The
tension,
continuity.
continuity, the emotions between the characters, the terror,
Yeah.
torture. She got tortured, and that's what we find out ends up being when they get to the Roman numerals and they figure this part out, and they're looking at the Bible verses.
Yeah. They find out that the shroud that the tooth was wrapped in, it says 1693 on it.
Yes.
And the peat that they found under her nails, they're like writing on the board, this is all coming from up north. We don't have peat here. So they kind of pinpoint that it's New England, and they're like, well, she's from 15th century New England or something. Oh, 17th century New England. And they're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
Hey, and even me, I'm like, hey, my high school math, the numbers don't seem to add up here. Like, there's a couple hundred years missing. Like, there's something.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And what do we know about the 17th century New England time period? There were a lot of people accused and killed for being witches. And even Tommy says, but they were innocent.
Yeah.
So she's an innocent. And this is where I love the turn that they take when they're figuring out where she came from, what happened to her. She was tortured, and she had witchcraft used against her, which supposedly was probably, and this is actually what happens a lot in history, is witchcraft is used to protect against witchcraft. And so what ended up happening is the people who tortured her in this way, they ended up creating what they feared. She wasn't a witch, but now she is.
Well, with that amount of torture, you had to turn into a vengeful spirit. That's what she is.
Oh,
Into the vengeful witch. And
this is the half-hanged Mary story all over again from my episode of Practically Magic, where we talk about burning and witch trials.
now, also, not only do you see him talk about they were all innocent, and they're almost painting the opposite picture of what Arthur Miller's The Crucible does. In that book, the Salem witch trials it's a little bit different story.
Yeah.
So, in Autopsy of Jane Doe, it's like a spin on that to say, they might have been innocent, but they're not now.
Yeah.
But you made them this way. I love that take. I don't know if there's historical reference or whatever in that kind of take that and people torturing a person so much make them a witch. Courtney, how long were you tortured before you turned into a witch?
Well, how about this? When you consider the witch wound,
Yeah.
which is that so many were accused of witchcraft just living their lives, gaining any type of power whatsoever over their own body, over their livelihood, over a way to make money, over a way to support yourself, over a way to choose when and how you want to have a baby. All of that stuff is generations upon generations upon generations of women needing to find their place in society and how they can find power. So, I mean, when you consider it that way, whether you want to call it witchcraft or whether you want to call it empowerment, if you're a body who's alive but not alive, you're not able to move and be alive. You've been tortured into this state and had witchcraft forced upon you, shoved into your mouth and into your body.
Really?
The shroud and the tooth and the string in her mouth. And I mean, clearly this ritualistic torturing took place. And it's not just the torture itself. I mean, the pain that she probably experienced in being tortured was part of it. But the pain or the torture represents all of that oppression that women have had to endure for centuries upon centuries upon centuries, even when they weren't a witch, even when they weren't practicing what we would traditionally call witchcraft.
Yeah.
So here's the revenge. So, I mean, this is where I hate to say it, but I'm watching this movie and I'm like, I hope nothing happens to Tommy and Austin. They're innocent. I'm all like, I hope they get out of this alive. But when I find out what this poor woman has gone through, when I find out what she's had to do to gain any sort of power, and that what she does with that power is she exacts revenge on anyone and everyone.
Yep.
It just happens to hit these two guys who were just doing their job.
You get caught in a crossfire and you can't be mad at her. Like you can't.
I can't. Sorry.
I'm totally with you. And I thought the same thing. I was like, oh, please, Tommy, Austin, get out of there. Tommy even gives in. He leans down to her and gives in. He's like, basically, I don't want to hurt you. And then from what I gather, she transfers her spirit off into his or something, into his body. His eyes turn gray. He's getting all the wounds.
Yep.
He starts snapping his bones. Like
Experiences the torture.
Yeah. So he's going through it now. Was that her passing it off to him? Is that what that was?
I'd like to think so. I mean, it would be kind of cool to see it. He sacrifices himself to take on all of her transgression or whatever, that would look like.
Yeah.
And he ends his life for her, and she gets pieced back together. She's whole again. And I don't know, she gets up and walks off to live her life, maybe, or I don't know what happens to her, but she's whole again. She's able to heal from this. That's not the ending we get. It's kind of like it just starts over, right?
Yeah.
She just gets put back together for the next person.
Yep. So that's open for interpretation. Does she continue going on her vengeful tour?
Yeah. How many people need to die?
Yeah. So, or does she continue and then also Tommy continue? Are there two spirits split now? Like two vengeful spirits? I don't know. But yeah, I love that it's open to interpretation. We don't get handed the answers. Final thoughts? You got any final thoughts on this movie before we wrap this one up?
My rants about oppressed women and witchcraft and the correlation, I think kind of sums that up really well. But I did have to look up the Leviticus
The Bible
verse that they found in the shroud. So that's how they find out what she is. They find that it's a scripture that is on the shroud in the Roman numeral numbers.
Tell me about that, because I know there are a million different variations of the Bible. So which one were they using? What's that?
When you're Googling it, it doesn't say exactly what they read, at least from the versions that I could find. It seems like they kind of pulled from a lot of different Leviticus verses and kind of put that together as witchcraft. But all of these different interpretations of Leviticus 19:26, the one that's in the movie is Leviticus 20:27. It says stuff like mediums, fortune tellers, people who practice divination, and then in some versions, they sum that up with witchcraft. And, they should be put to death by stoning is kind of the general idea of these scriptures, which is interesting. And I mean, Leviticus is hard on everybody. I don't know if there's anybody that can get away with anything in Leviticus without being stoned to death. So, I don't know, how much you want to take credit in that, but we follow the Bible word for word, really, because I don't think anybody can do that. But yeah, that's interesting because it's fortune tellers, mediums, they kind of just lump it all into one when they talk about witchcraft. And they're like,
that-
anybody who does that.
That's interesting. You know, also, I want to point out too, in one of my final thoughts is that when this Leviticus Bible verse comes up and we're looking at the pages and we finally see witch, you see the word witch. That's the first time in this movie that the word witch has been mentioned, that we even, it's your validity finally at this point, because sure, all these other things, you're like, that seems kind of,
Yeah.
like, that's him. Did they burn her? What kind of people did they burn? Witches? Like, you start adding it up, but it's not until this part when they look at Leviticus, which is probably maybe 20 minutes left in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when they finally say witch. And I think that's another key moment in the movie, that, yeah, it erases all your doubt.
Yeah.
If you had any by this point, it's, yeah, really, right? And it just puts it into context. And then finally, you're like, oh shit, yeah, I saw that coming. But in other movies where you see stuff coming, you're prepared for it. You're still not prepared for it.
Mm-hmm.
You see it coming, but now what? You don't have anywhere to go. You're stuck with the rest of this. And when you find that kind of stuff out in other movies, that's about the end. It's like over. You're done. You're like, okay, cool. Move on. Roll the credits. Not here. And
yeah, it's like, now what? Now that we know this, what do we do about it? They tried to destroy her body just by burning her right then and there, and it didn't work. I mean,
almost burnt the building. They almost burnt the building. They're like, they almost burnt down the whole thing. Like, it's wild. And
that's a good movie.
My voice is I ain't losing my voice even more now. I think Jane Doe's taking in my voice. I think that's what's happening. No, something's going on, but these two movies are incredible. I'm going to give one more plug to another movie that I have seen and ran across, that if you like Jane Doe, the Autopsy of Jane Doe, you got to check out this movie called Sushi Girl. Ooh. Sushi Girl is 2012. It's about a little over a decade old, but there's a girl named Courtney Palm who plays the sushi girl, and she does exactly what what's her name? Olwen does in Jane Doe, and she lays there the entire movie while the takes place around her. And it's not witchy or anything like that, but I think it's very cool, because if you know anything about the sushi girls who lay there, and it's the ones who are naked and they let them eat sushi off of them.
Right. Yeah.
What's going on in the room with them? They are trained to not move and not do anything. What's going on around her in this movie, in Sushi Girl, is this big gangster meeting. And they're talking about all these crimes. And check that one out. If you enjoy.
That's fascinating. That's good. Well, since you mentioned that, something that this movie brought to my connections. A couple of years ago, I was in a book club, and we get to take turns picking a book. And we were on the nonfiction genre. So it was like, we got to pick something that's nonfiction. And I picked the book Stiff by Mary Roach. It's called Stiff, The Curious Life of Human Cadavers. And it was absolutely fascinating. Now, cadavers kind of creep me out. I think about like what it would be like to actually see one or work on one, or my sister went through nursing school and things like that, and they had to go and study cadavers for a semester. I was like, I don't know how you do it. That's so disturbing to me. But this book goes through all the different things that can happen to a cadaver after you die. When you donate it to science, when you donate it to forensic studies, when you're cremated, when you're, all the different options, all the different things. So it's really well written. And there were some people in my book club that were like, not reading that. Nope, too gross for me or whatever. But I was like, it's fascinating. So plug for that book in connection to the Autopsy of Jane Doe. It would be a fascinating read after watching this movie.
Whew. We got to catch our breath, Courtney.
Yeah. 2 excellent movies and a lot of death.
A lot of death. You even thought that the Autopsy of Jane Doe was an A24 movie because
That for sure. All these A24 movies we've been watching for the Witch Movie Project. And I'm like, well, when everybody dies, it's probably A24, right?
yeah,
Not
that's
this time.
No, I mean they have the most joyful romps out there, you know, like happy endings and all, you know.
Yeah, but I do like how all of them are, even this one, all of them are very psychological. There's
Yeah.
a lot more depth to this kind of horror than you typically find with Halloween or Friday the 13th or something like that.
Yeah, honestly, it is a really true testament and a high remark for you to think that Autopsy was an A24 movie because to get, I wouldn't be upset if I made a movie and somebody was like, "Oh, that's an A24 movie," and it wasn't.
Yeah.
Because really, they set this atmosphere, and it did have that atmosphere. And Richard Nang and Ian Goldberg, the writers, man, they incredible, like incredible. I don't want to go. We already talked. We picked it apart, but I hope this is just me. I don't want to sway any voters, but
Gospel according to Blane.
yeah, this would be the fun one. This would be the one that I think would be an incredible experience. If you haven't seen it, don't watch it.